This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 411 on the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, TotalSaddleFit.com, and Fairfield in Lexington. Today we're going to be talking to Pony Club member Michaela about her exciting experience at World Cup, and Stacy Westfall is back to talk to us about her take on the Dressage World Cup final.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show. And back after a long absence is Glenn.
Hey guys, good to talk to you again. So much fun.
Hi, we missed you.
Well, you guys look like you had a lot of fun out there. We're going to talk about, I want to hear all about World Cup, and I saw you met up with some listeners and had a good time out there.
We did.
We always have a good time.
And I hung out with Stacy Westfall the week before you hung out with Stacy Westfall.
I know, she gets around. We love her. It's so much fun. And so we were teasing her. I was like, you are really becoming a member of the family, girl. It was fun.
She has a lot of fun, and we'll talk about that. Hey, I have a couple announcements before we hear all about World Cup. How about that?
Ready.
Okay, meetups coming up. Speaking of meetups, we have our usual Rolex get-togethers, and Reese, you don't know this yet, but on Friday night of Rolex, if you're coming in for Rolex, which is the 28th, we are going to be going to the Grey Goose in Midway at 7:30. We reserved the back room. We did that at Road to the Horse. It was a lot of fun. And so we're doing a listener meetup, 7:30 in the evening, Friday night, the 28th at the Grey Goose in Midway. They have the best gluten-free pizza I've ever had in my life.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's
They
good.
do.
And real pizzas too.
It's good.
That people
And
were
real
loving.
pizzas.
Yeah. They were loving the food there. And they reserved the whole back room for us, which during Rolex is hard to get.
That's big.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's big.
But
that's awesome.
We had 20 people at the one for Road to the Horse, so I imagine it's going to be more than that at Rolex. The other thing is we'll be meeting a half an hour like we do every year, half an hour before cross country at jump number 1. We always have a meetup at jump number 1, and then we kind of walk the course together for a while, and then 2 o'clock that afternoon on Saturday, cross country day, we'll head over to Horse Nation and Eventing Nation's tailgate. 1 for free beer, and 2 we'll be running trivia again this year for like the 4th year, and we'll do a trivia competition and give away a whole bunch of prizes. So that's the plans right now. We'll be doing a couple shows from there, thanks to Weatherbeata, supporting our efforts at Rolex. We'll be doing a couple Horses in the Morning shows from there as well. So that's the plans coming up at Rolex. And then I have very exciting news. This just finalized today, actually. We thought we're getting together with Horse Nation and Eventing Nation and sponsoring the first ever Horse Lovers Cruise. You know, we kind of came up with this idea, 1, because Jennifer and I like to cruise. And 2, we were thinking, wouldn't it be fun to just go on vacation with a whole bunch of our listeners and people who just like horses? Just get together, but not have it be a horsey vacation. Have it just be fun, but you get to hang out with horse people. And, we were thinking February, what could we do in February that would be kind of fun? And that's where the cruise idea came up. So we're doing a Horse Lovers Cruise. It's leaving out of Miami on February the 12th. It's a 4-night. We wanted to keep it short because, people have to find babysitters for the horses and stuff. But it's also a good excuse for people to get out of the north and head somewhere warm in February. We're leaving out of Miami, which for Reese, you could just drive down.
Oh, I know. So close.
And then we're going the first day. We're doing several ports of call in 4 days, which is unusual. We're doing Nassau in the Bahamas. We're doing Coco Cay Bay, which is the private island for Royal Caribbean. And then Key West, and then back to Miami. So we have a number of stops. Should be a lot of fun. We're gonna see what horsey things we can arrange either in Nassau or at Key West. So we're gonna see what we can figure out there. It's just gonna be fun. Other groups have tried the horse cruise thing, but they always wanted to have seminars all day and speakers and all that crap. We're there to party. That's
I love
the goal.
This is my kind of vacation.
Yeah, this is not seminars all day. Now, we are going to do
no
one.
education.
No. No education. Leslie from Horse Nation, who's known to be a partier, will be leading the pub crawls every night because there's numerous pubs on ships, and I'm sure she'll be leading the pub crawls on land at the ports, which in Key West shouldn't be too difficult. And then we are going to do one activity. Well, there'll be a meetup when we first get on the ship. But after that, we're going to do one activity. We're going to do a game show. And we're going to get a couple $1,000s in prizes donated. And we're all going to get together and do a game show. We're going to combine a little bit of all the game shows from trivia to newlywed game. And we're just going to have a good time and give away a lot of stuff. So that's what we're planning. Just hang out with horse people, get together. It's, as I said, on February 12th. You can go for two people for like anywhere between $600 and $800. That's not including your flights. You'll have to get to the boat, but that's the boat. It's Royal Caribbean, which is very nice cruise lines, and you can stay on. You don't have to go in every port. You can actually stay on the ship. We do that usually one day because the boat empties out and you can have the whole place to yourself. But yeah, so that's the scoop. That's what we got planned. There'll be more details in the next week or two. We'll have the group contact for you so that you can all sign up and come have a good time with other horse people. And you know what? They can bring their spouses too, or aren't really horse people, because it's a cruise. They can go do other stuff.
Oh, so, yeah. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So I think it accomplishes a little bit of everything.
That's a cool idea.
That's so cool. I love it.
And hopefully some of our hosts will come. Jamie won't come because she hates boats. So,
I love a party. Phil and I are not ones to miss a party.
I didn't think so.
Let's be real.
And you know what? With a port every day, pretty much you're using the ship as your hotel at night. So,
yeah, it's wonderful.
Good food and drink, right?
So, it's awesome. Yeah.
So
awesome.
We're actually doing Royal Caribbean for 7 nights in May coming up. We're doing a 7-night cruise in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's going to be so fun. Jealous.
So that's my announcements. Now, World Cup in Omaha.
World Cup. I know, right? You think Omaha? No way. But it was great. So Phil and I both got in on Wednesday night, and easy flight. It's a little airport. It's fantastic. Our hotel had a shuttle. We called it the Cookie Bus, which became our mode of transportation for a week, or the time. And both Phil and I, we were in the airplane, and I sat next to a gentleman who had nothing to do with horses, but knew all about the event. He knew everything that was going on and all the things that were happening. The town really embraced us coming, which I thought was awesome. Wouldn't you say, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was, not surprising because we hear about the hospitality of the Midwest, but it was just really nice to everybody that we talked to, from the time we were on the plane was like, oh, we're so here, have a nice time. And, was always recommending things to do or places to eat or stuff to see around the city of Omaha, which was really nice. It sort of, had a feeling of a bigger city, but it wasn't like busy. I don't know why the city wasn't busy, but there's hardly any traffic. Everything was centralized right around downtown. It didn't feel like a big sprawled out problem to go anywhere. And as far as the city goes, we had a wonderful experience. They held another World Cup. I'd definitely go back. I mean, the dining experience, the restaurants, they had a lot of seafood, which was really surprising, but I guess they have it flown in from, either coast, and it was awesome. The food was great, and the venue was unbelievable.
Yeah, the venue was great. Everything was on one level, which was incredibly nice for the horses. They didn't have to go up and down ramps. The stabling was secure. It's FEI secured stabling, so you couldn't get back to the stabling, but you could see where the horses were. And they had a private little warm-up in the back, but most of the time they had to do all their warm-up kind of in between the spectators. So you were shopping.
Yeah, it was right in the middle of the trade show was the warm-up ring, and it was that was a new experience. I haven't seen that before because normally the warm-up are private and back behind walls and doors and things, but here they really kind of wanted the riders to use that from a process before they go into the ring, or on the days that they weren't showing, they would bring these horses in the morning to do their exercises, and you could sit right next to the ring and watch Isabel Wirt ride and watch Carl Hester ride and see what they were doing and how they rode, not just ring riding, but and so I thought that was really nice, and I think the riders kind of like that as well, to because the horses were kind of a little bit getting used to hustle bustle before they went right into the big stadium ring with all the people and the lights and the music and everything. So I thought that was a really cool, a little bit different aspect of Omaha.
Yeah, I can agree more. And everyone was so nice and well trained and helped you get to your seats. And it was just, I think everybody had a blast. And I think we were not the only people that were nervous about it. I mean, a lot of us were like, Omaha, are you sure? But I think that was overwhelming for all the riders and the spectators and grooms, just how fun it was and how great the city was. And, it is a big town. Like Phil and I, the thing about World Cup is there is actually some free time, which is nice. They're only, I think there are 15 starts, and then there were only 13 starts, right, for the Grand Prix freestyle. So there's actually some free time, actually. So you can walk around the venue, but they have a nice little art museum. It's actually free to go to the art museum, which was cool. And then they have a really nice zoo in Omaha. So we were able to go to the zoo. So it was a really, I'm with Philip, highly recommend it. I will not have any reservations about going back to Omaha for the World Cup.
And the cool part we didn't really even think about. But for the continental U.S. or a little bit Canada, it's right in the middle of the country. Like nobody's going, flying 5-6 hours to get to where you want to be. For me to fly to Las Vegas that's a pretty long flight, 6 hours. So, it was only, 2.5 total flight time to get to Omaha. That was, really appreciated and really cool. So I think their idea of building up, shows and competition, kind of in the middle of the country is wonderful. And I didn't really think about that when we were kind of booking it, and when I was booking flights that were inexpensive. It was so a really great experience, and I really hope they do get awarded the World Cup again, or they were talking about building their own shows, show jumping and dressage, international shows that you can go to Omaha and have a good time. I think everybody that was there really, if they weren't surprised, because they'd already been there, but everybody who hadn't been there, was surprised with it was. So that was awesome.
Well, Reese, let's talk a little bit about the competition. I see a newcomer won.
Yeah, I think, not so much. But Isabel Wirt is the most decorating dressage athlete ever of all time. And she really, she showed everybody how it was done. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it was amazing to watch, to see someone like that in person. And I've had the pleasure of meeting her a couple times, and she's just as nice in person. But you watch her ride, and I would actually tell everybody, if you have a chance, watch her Grand Prix. She did make a couple little mistakes, made a mistake in the 2-time changes. But to watch Isabel Wirt ride that freestyle, she doesn't leave a point not on the table. Right, Phil?
Yeah. I mean, Weigel, not maybe the most spectacular horse.
Yep.
But you can see that the correctness of the training and the precision of the riding is all there, and that's where she makes up the points. I mean, it's a very nice horse and it's a very nice mover, but I think even one of the judges commented that maybe Verdatis, who placed second with Laura Graves, which we all love, and we had her on the show and all that. I mean, he is a spectacular mover, and he can really lift his legs and really impress you with his passage and his extended trot and his flying. I mean, he does everything really well. But he gets a little hot, especially in the indoor environment, and he makes little mistakes, and the riding is not quite as precise. And then Isabel just comes in, and the whole test just flows together. You can see that there's it just especially the freestyle, is designed in such a way that it does that, and it's really, as a rider, it just really, really wows in that way. And it was a spectacular competition. The top three horses, Carl Hester rode Nip Tuck, and who is a very nice horse, but is a little bit challenged conformationally. I think he will say that himself, but he was really on too. I think the top five horses were really on and really fighting for that World Cup. So as a spectator, it was amazing because as each horse came in, you just, wow, that was great. What is the next rider going to do? What is the next rider going to do? And it made for a competition that just kind of flew by. There was 2.5 hours of tests, and it felt like 15 minutes. I just really enjoyed it and really enjoyed the riding. And I really, not always do the Europeans bring their top horses to America for the World Cup. Sometimes they'll bring their second qualified horse. And here we saw Isabel, bring her best horse, the one that she leads the world in. And it was awesome to see.
And ended up on a 90-something? Just.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was
90 something. Yeah.
It's worth. Yeah. It's worth watching if you get a chance, just to go out there and see and watch. But it's true. All top three of those horses were spectacular to ride and to watch. I would love to ride any of them. I'm just saying. But it really was cool to see. And in each strategy, Carl Hester even said, Nip Tuck has a tendency to be a little bit tricky in the Grand Prix. And he even said, I rode a really conservative test and felt like that was important for him to get a good run through and to do. And, Laura Graves, she even said it in the press conference. She was a little bit disappointed that she didn't win, as we all are. We all want to win, but she said that she was very, very pleased with her horse. And that's not something our American horses don't go to venues like that. In Europe, they go to indoors all the time, but they don't do that in the United States.
Well, the whole World Cup circuit is indoors in Europe in the winter. So, their horses have much more experience with the whole environment, and that's just kind of a fact of life, right?
Right.
I don't think that the Americans will be going over during the winter because they got such a great circuit in Florida and in California. So,
yeah.
And then they spend their summers in Europe where all the shows are outdoors. So it's a little bit of a different animal, the indoor circuit and the World Cup. And it's nice to see. I kind of like that the placings are based on the freestyle only, So they can go into the Grand Prix with a little bit of a different strategy, not trying to push the horses for everything they got and needing the points in the Grand Prix to count towards the end. They just all the riders really plan for and make it all about the freestyle, which is for a spectator the most exciting part of our sport. So I think that's kind of an interesting aspect, and it's cool to see because I think we see a few of the riders, not just the top ones, but a few of the riders make mistakes in the Grand Prix, but when they came into their freestyles, everybody knew what it was about and laid down, really great freestyles, and the music and everything, really came together for all the riders. We saw, from 1 to 13 nice freestyles, and it was a pleasure to watch.
Very cool. Now, did you get to watch any of the jumping?
We didn't actually.
No,
you did.
Hey, I saw some. I went on the final day to see the finals. My plane was leaving as they were doing the second round, and so all I heard on the plane, because somebody was watching it on their phone or something, that the McLean Ward win.
He did 5 rounds clear.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
just incredible.
Yeah, he is incredible. Well, that's cool. I'm so glad you guys got to do it and had some fun doing it, and that it was a good venue too.
Absolutely. It was
And
great.
You probably didn't lose as much money as you do when you go to Vegas.
True. That's very true.
Didn't make any either, though.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, didn't make it. Didn't, yeah, true. Well, right after this commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products, we're coming back with our wonderful friend of the show, Stacy Westfall.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
If you've ever had a horse with diarrhea, you know what a frustrating problem it can be. Finding an ingredient that works to dry up the diarrhea becomes a high priority. It turns out that researchers have found one, a yeast called Saccharomyces boulardii. It has been proven to improve and halt episodes of diarrhea. It supplies specific nutrients to the lining of the small and large intestines, and these nutrients promote healing of irritated tissues. It also supports improved starch and sugar digestion in the small intestine, reducing the opportunity for imbalances to occur in the hindgut. Nalox Advanced, made by Kentucky Performance Products, contains Saccharomyces boulardii, along with a blend of fermentation solubles and stomach buffers. Nalox Advanced is recommended for horses of any age that are suffering from diarrhea. It also supports a healthy digestive tract in horses at risk for gastric or colonic ulcers, such as performance horses or any horse that is constantly on the go and exposed to stressful situations. For best results, Nalox Advanced should be fed on a daily basis.
This Nutritional Minute has been brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. You can find all of their terrific products at kppusa.com.
Well, everybody, we are so very happy to have Stacy Westfall. Stacy is the extraordinary rider, freestyle bridleless. She's amazing. And she has been on the show before because she is working, I don't know how to say it, Stacy, on a new discipline, learning something new. And she's geeking out with us with dressage, and I love it. So Stacy, welcome to the show again.
Oh, thanks for having me. And thanks for the lesson today.
I know really we had an awesome lesson today. We all came back from the World Cup so inspired. And when you spend that time and you're able to, talk with horse people and hang out, we all know that is the best thing you can do. But Stacy, so it's really interesting. You called me or texted me a couple months ago and said, hey, do you want to go to Omaha? And I'm like, well, I'm actually already going. You want to go hang out? And so that was it. And so the Omaha trip was born. And we also had another friend, Jessica Lyons, came with us. And we just had several days of watching sort of the best, dressage riders in the world. But what was it like? I mean, Stacy, you have an unbelievable amount of followers in the horse world. You're incredibly popular. What, 500,000 followers?
You have a lot of followers. 400. Yeah.
You have a lot of followers, but you got to go and be a spectator.
I don't think they appreciate this, Stacy. The day before she flew out to see you guys, she was with me, and we were at Road to the Horse. Stacy Westfall cannot go to the bathroom at Road to the Horse without having 30 teenage girls around her. She just she can't do anything at Road to the Horse. She can't go anywhere. She has 200 people lined up for autographs, which I thought that the competitors were probably pissed at you, actually, because everybody's lined up to get Stacy's autographed. And so it must have been interesting then to head to a place immediately after Road to the Horse where there's 8,000 people that love you and know you and will not let you alone to go to World Cup.
It was
where nobody loves
really
you.
fun.
Yeah, where nobody loves you.
Just kidding. Yeah, she knows I'm kidding.
You have a horn on your saddle, don't you? That's what you do.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable because every year I set goals, and one of my goals this year was to go to a couple different educational venues, and so I managed to decide to fit this World Cup into my educational venue, which that's going to be one of the pieces. It really turned out to be a very educational trip. But from an enjoyment standpoint, we stayed at the DoubleTree and had cookies morning, noon, and night. And
watched more.
Yeah, maybe more. And watched world-class horses and riders. I just really doesn't get much better than that.
It's so true. So tell us, a little bit, we'll start with the Grand Prix day. What happened when you kind of watched the Grand Prix and got to see these horses for the first time?
Yeah, so up until that point, I'd seen horses like that on TV or YouTube. And it just like I've experienced in other places, when you see it and feel the energy in the room and you're there, it's just a different feeling. And the level of I don't know why it would seem you'd think that watching YouTube where they're zoomed in this level of detail, but there's just something about feeling it and being there that's different. And what I really liked about the first day was, I believe you texted me and said there's a commentary, and because up until that point I was a little bit lost, and I was watching it and I was like, oh, this is really nice, but when you don't know what you're looking at, because I can tell a nice horse and I can tell the basics, but the details are where, in any discipline, the details are where it's at. And trying to digest that much, when you told me that there was a commentary on the app that they had built for the World Cup, as soon as I turned that on, that thing was worth the price of admission plus 10. Because to have him talking through every ride, and his name was Axel, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yep, it was Axel Steiner.
And he was amazing at telling, this is what's happening. The rider, this is what's, this was amazing movement, but this next horse was really straight. The halt, the detail of, and really for me, what he kept emphasizing was the straightness, the steadiness, and that made that stand out, because it was easy for me to see some of the big movement and then lose some of the other details that I wasn't trained to look for.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's really nice to get a perspective of somebody who hasn't, Reese and I have been to quite a few of these things, and Reese sees all these horses, well, not all of them, but a bunch of these horses in Florida. And so it's cool to get a different perspective. For me, I started with the commentary and then I turned it off, because I really enjoy just, kind of sitting and thinking about each movement as it happens, and, my own sort of thoughts and perspective on it. And so, I've listened to commentaries before, but this one I just, just where we were sitting and how I was looking at things, I was really just enjoying it as it happened. And sometimes, as the top riders came in, you just have to enjoy it for what it is a little bit, and just say, how each thing sort of comes together and how it all looks as, a total picture, instead of really kind of picking apart the little pieces. So I think that's, for me, what you can tell from, from a good ride to a great ride is, like, a good ride, gets, you can see those little mistakes and those little problems. Like a great ride, the little mistakes and little problems, they happen, because nobody rides 100% a perfect ride. They happen, but then the next thing is just right on point again, right? And it doesn't, sort of, it just all kind of flows together. So that's why I really enjoyed from the rides, especially, the Grand Prix, because the test is always the same. You kind of know what's coming right up, so you kind of go, and now she's preparing to go into her half pass, and now he's preparing to do the Piaffe right there, and so that's what I like about the Grand Prix. You know what's coming up, and so you can see the riders start to prepare for the next movement, and as a rider, you can sort of start to learn from those little nuances of what happens and what goes around.
Yeah.
I did notice that after we'd gone through several of the tests, because at that point I was starting to see the pattern, and then I was able to see what you're saying. And then it's interesting to hear you say that, because I have that experience kind of over in my world of reining, where I'm to the point, and I'm going to guess it's almost an education level, where I feel more entry in the understanding of what I'm watching in dressage. So I still really crave that input from people who know, and it helps me to bounce my ideas around. But in my industry, where I'm an expert, I experience more of what you were saying about kind of stepping back and getting that big picture and not being as consumed with the details. So it's interesting to have that perspective, but in two different worlds. I feel like I'm on one end of the scale in one world and I'm not in the other.
Yeah, no. Well, I thought it was a wonderful. I listened to the commentary. I liked it, and I had actually one ear in and one ear was sitting next to Philip, so we would chat about things. But no, I think it was such a neat thing, and that was also one of the they were very good about sort of telling you where to go, and there was a great app that was always updating you, and that was nice. But to be able to have access to someone like Axel Steiner, and kind of, I like the judge's perspective. I'm not a judge, so to hear kind of what they're seeing and that kind of stuff, I thought it was a good experience. And then to watch the Grand Prix, you can see sort of, why Isabelle Wert's Piaffe is that much better than the gentleman from Brazil, which was good. And all the riders were there, deserved to be there on their own right. But even in the group of 15 horses that were there, you end up, you can see the difference, and you think, oh my gosh, these are all top horses. But then, you can see breeds and body types, and that's what's nice. And it's not an overwhelming number of horses that come in. One of the things we talked about a little bit earlier in the show, but Isabelle Wert made a mistake in her 2-time changes, and she said later on in the press conference, how. She said, I started my 2s, I felt secure, and I quit riding, and it was completely my fault. And I think it's always kind of rewarding in a way, or not rewarding, but good to hear that even the most decorated dressage athlete on history can still make mistakes on, she's, God knows how many 2-times she's ridden in her lifetime, but so that was nice to hear.
I think that's interesting because, as a spectator, you think, okay, this horse is just super trained. I mean, the rider can just sit there and they're going to do the Grand Prix, because they know that test, and they just, come in and you think, okay, well, a horse of that training should just get on that line of 2s and just do them all, right? Right? Is the rider doing anything at all? That you sometimes ask yourself. But that's just a perfect example. Like, everybody's got to ride the whole test, from start to finish. And if you aren't on point and you aren't focused and you aren't telling the horse what to do, there will be mistakes, So that's sort of vindicating, because I always feel like when I go into the test, I'm doing so much, and the best riders are not doing
exactly.
All, but I think that's the art of it, and we've all got to be giving the cues.
So, Stacy, moving on to sort of Friday, Isabelle Wert did an amazing demonstration. Tell us, what were some things that you thought about for that? It was about an hour, which was not enough time, but that's what she had. And she had 3 horses, a young horse, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 7-year-old, right? And then a coming Grand Prix horse, an 8 or 9-year-old horse. So, Stacy, what did you like during that hour? What were some things that you got out of that?
It's actually the same theme that you guys were just going on about watching. And, if you watch somebody showing and you see them make a mistake, when we take people to shows and you go to, we have the same stuff where you'll go to the top level and you'll see somebody make a mistake, and the people that are at the show with us, the entry level riders, are like, wow, what do you mean they make mistakes? And you're like, well, they're human, mistakes happen. And there's almost a relief for you can identify with that. So the interesting thing about watching Isabel's clinic was that the horses weren't perfect, because they weren't in there they weren't trying to ride a test. And so you were watching her work through the different horses. And so then you weren't just watching. There's a benefit to watching them take the test, but there's a benefit to watching the training. And that was what I thought being different there. So, you saw the body types, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the younger horse, the 5-year-old, I think it was, his body type just struck me as being different than like the higher level one. And so it gave, and you're having that in the test when you're watching it, but watching the training and the strength and the balance and the way they move, and then just hearing her talk through what she's telling them to do. And then something I'm fascinated with but haven't gotten to is I want to see more of the training versus, I know there's a difference between riding a test and training. And that was one of the first times I've seen training, that side of it, because I can turn on YouTube and watch tests, but I want to see the training, and that was what I really enjoyed.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was really cool to see.
I was just going to say, what came across in her lessons was, really the preciseness of how to deal with the issues, So she was, I think, a theme through the three horses was a shoulder in position, right? And she really talked about, the right amount of angle. She didn't say it's 45 degrees or it's 20 degrees or 30 degrees. She just, sort of it came across that, sometimes it's too much and sometimes it's not enough. Each horse had sort of a different angle that they were expected to make, but really to bend through the body and ride correct shoulder in to help with the overall balance. And then, the transitions between, maybe a big trot or a small trot or riding shoulder in as you're making a little half pass and really controlling, the four pieces of the horse, and the neck and the head a little bit, it's not just really guesswork that you're trying to do something. This is how it's done. And that's where you want to ride, every day and not just throughout a lesson, but this is a position that helps the horse to do its job better for you and will build strength, balance, and all of those gymnastic qualities. So that's what I took away from that short demo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love it. So going into the big dance, literally on Saturday, what did you think about that in person, seeing those freestyles?
Oh, that was amazing.
It was, yes. For all dressage geeks, it was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the scores, but just, again, that it was because of the event as a whole, and then the order with Isabel drawing at the end, but the music, and I mean, in my world, I love freestyle reining. I love everything to do with the freestyle. When Laura came around, and I don't even have words for, but how she came around and did what she was doing, twos and then went to ones, or ones and then went to, but the way she laid out the pattern, that was like completely different than anything else I'd seen. It's just the creativity that's there, but the energy in the room. And yeah, it was that one I did more just sitting back and being in awe of the horses, because
mm-hmm.
I did the one ear in and the rest out, and was like, I'm going to purely enjoy this and live it and pick up something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it was a moment to be there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Even, it just to watch that and just to see those horses and how they're prepared and how they know and how, they can highlight in the freestyle, that the point obviously is to highlight, what is your horse good at, and to see what mm-hmm. the riders think the horses are good at, and to do that is, and that can go badly too. There was one horse that was good in pirouettes. However, I felt like the whole test was a pirouette. They kept doing it, and it was like, okay, mm-hmm. your horse is good at that. Yeah, it's too much. So that was a good example for me on like what is too much, which mm-hmm. that was too much. But it was just an awe, and it was fun, and it was you just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was super fun to watch, because Philip and I weren't sitting with Stacy and Jessica, but we would get together for dinner, and it was all fun to kind of hear your take on what it was like to watch something new, and it was really fun to see it through your eyes, Stacy, and I hope other people got that same experience, to be exposed to those type of horses and riding. Was fun. Well, Stacy, how can we find you online if our listeners have any questions for you?
Oh, you can go to westfallhorsemanship.com and you can send me an email from there, or I'm on Facebook, Stacy Westfall.
Well, that was such a fun interview with Stacy, and we really did have a great time. So right after this commercial break, we're going to come back with some other friends we met at our listener meetup, Deborah and Michaela, to talk about their experience also at the World Cup.
Fairfield Inn & Suites North by Marriott Lexington is the ideal hotel for you, as they are the closest hotel to the Kentucky Horse Park. They have the most spacious guest rooms and suites in the area, and they're only 4 miles from downtown Lexington. Fairfield Inn & Suites North offers complimentary breakfast, free Wi-Fi throughout the hotel, free parking, a business center, an indoor swimming pool and jacuzzi, an outdoor patio with grill, laundry facilities, and much more. You get hungry, Cracker Barrel is located right next door, and there are 4 other dining options available within walking distance for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Of course, Lexington is known for the Kentucky Horse Park, University of Kentucky, Keeneland, and the historical Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Enjoy a terrific hotel experience while you're touring Lexington. There's no denying that the Lexington North Fairfield Inn and Suites is the best value in town and will meet all your hospitality needs. Just Google Fairfield Inn North Lexington and make your reservations today.
Well, as you guys saw, we had such a wonderful time, Philip and I, in Omaha. And we are always meeting new friends. And Deborah and Michaela Frye came to our listener meetup. And Michaela actually rode, or Stephen Peter rode her horse in the Pony Club mounted games at the end of the show, right? So Michaela and Deborah, welcome to the program.
Hello.
Well, we are so happy you guys are here. And Michaela, how old are you?
11.
11. And she is quite the rider. But Deborah, tell us a little bit about kind of what you guys were doing there and a little bit about where you guys are from and all that good stuff.
Well, we live in Shawnee, Kansas, and we had actually originally just planned to go up for, Friday, Saturday just to see some show jumping and dressage and thought that'd be really cool, great opportunity to see some of these top riders. And then about 2 weeks before we went up, our pony club was looking for another games pony basically to do the celebrity ride. So they asked Michaela if she would want to ride to do a demonstration Sunday morning and then let a celebrity ride her horse Saturday night. So it took a little bit more extra effort to bring a pony club and get through all the FEI secure areas. We eventually got through to get him installed there, and he was in like the exhibit hall basically for the horses and stuff, so all the public could walk by and check out your horse and meet you and visit with different people and see all the different ponies that were competing there. So.
And how many ponies were competing overall?
Well, I think there was at least 8 of them there, maybe 10 at times. Because there was different demonstrations. I think different kids were doing it earlier in the week. And we're with the Mill Creek Pony Club in Shawnee, but there was a Cornhusker Pony Club brought in quite a few, Mission Valley. So there was a bunch of different clubs that brought in their ponies to take part in the games.
That is so cool. And so, Michaela, what was it like to take your pony and be there with all of those FEI horses?
It was pretty cool. I was very excited, a little nervous.
I bet. That's normal. I would be nervous too.
So, guys, tell me a little bit about how you got started into Pony Club and what you like about it.
Probably started with the games, didn't it? I mean, I think that's the first thing you did was they had a Halloween party at the farm we board at, basically, and invited Michaela to come join the games and try it out there. And they had a lot of food, and that's always made it, and the good prizes, right?
It's always the way to go. Philip would come for that. Any food, Philip would be there. He'd sniff it out.
But it was a good way too to meet different kids at the, that were riding at the barn too on different levels. And then I think after that we were basically hooked and signed up. And one of her first big rallies she did was a games rally, and it was, the older kids really helped the younger kids go through it. And at that time, her pony wasn't always the best behaved, so they would help guide the pony around or just make sure everybody had a good time and was successful. And I think that, to me, that's one of the biggest things I like about Pony Club is that it's such a mix of ages working together and helping each other figure it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Michaela, how old were you when you started riding?
Since before you were born, probably.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I like it.
Deb, were you into the horses previously, and how did the family get started then?
I basically grew up always wanting a horse, and my family really couldn't afford it, so I went to school, became an engineer, so I could actually afford my hobby then. And I've been actually started with a Pony Club kid actually giving me lessons to start riding too. So I guess it's a small world here.
That is so cool. So what was it like, Michaela, to meet Stephen Peters?
It was much better than I thought it would be.
Really? What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know. I just got to actually talk with him more, almost like behind the scenes
Yeah.
He's
And
a
what
pretty
was he
nice
like?
guy, I
Yeah,
think.
what was he like?
Yeah.
He's a pretty nice guy. What did you guys talk about? Can you tell us?
We didn't talk too much, but I did warn him that my pony doesn't have his right lead.
Oh. And he looked like he was kind of training your pony a little, was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had your pony. What is your pony's name?
George.
George was on the bit when Stefan was on him, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen George do that before. That was amazing. See him push him actually into the bit, and he curved under. It's like, holy cow, he's working off his hind end.
Yeah, I think it's not never bad to have an Olympic medalist on your pony for
A
sure.
little training session.
I know. So tell us a little bit about George.
George is 10 years old. He's a Welsh cross. We got him in September. He's been doing games for a long time with Pony Club kids.
Oh.
They basically saved him from like a kill pen almost. So he was on his last truck ride there when they got him, and he's only been trained on games, which is why they really weren't worried about his right leg canter when we got him. So
Yeah, I don't know. I think I saw Stefan canter. Did he get the right lead?
he probably got it. He will do it once in a while. It's just hard to keep him holding it. So
Yeah.
it's in there. So.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about, we're talking about the event, but we need to tell all the listeners what happened. What are we talking about?
Well, basically what Pony Club put together was a celebrity games competition. It was held after the show jumping show on Saturday night. And what they did was they reached out to old Pony Club alumni. So the writers were, Stefan Peters, Casey Perry Glass, Judy Reynolds, and Sabine Schitt-Carey. They all used to be Pony Club kids. And so they basically reached out to them, asked if they would, do this fun competition. And they were the ones that agreed to it. And it was, they would come back, in kind of the smaller demo arena. I got to know their ponies a little bit. I loved Casey Perry Glass. The grin never left her face. Once she got mounted her pony, she's like, I haven't mounted from the ground in I don't know how long. And every photo we have of her, she has a big grin on her face. And Judy Reynolds, it was neat because her father was there from Ireland, and I got to visit with him a little bit about, how did she get started in Pony Club, and he talked about her doing the fox hunting, and she loved to do the side saddle jumping and those type of things first. She was late getting into dressage, so, it was kind of, a lot of the family members were back there, too, watching them warm up and do this, and then I think you were at the arena. It got crazy there at the arena.
Yeah.
They got pretty competitive, actually, for a quote-unquote fun event, right?
Yes, it was very competitive.
Yeah. I was shocked at how many people hung around to watch this little fun show there, and I was kind of wondering because they'd only planned 3 games. Of course, after that was done, everybody wanted more, and I thought it was cool. Everybody yelled for another one, and then I don't know, got a little bit crazy at the end there when they started racing around.
No, they started doing laps.
Yeah.
So it's just race. They forgot about the games at the end, I think.
That got a little
lost
nuts.
control.
But that was really fun. So, Michaela, what's your plan now with George? What are you doing next?
Well, I'm trying to get him to be better at dressage right now, and
Nice.
maybe a little better of a jumper.
I love it. I know you should stay in touch with Stefan. I think you've got a pretty good coach there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maha. So thank you both so much. Michaela, stay in touch with us, girl. We want to hear what's happening with you and George.
Thanks, bye.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at totalsaddlefit.com.
Well, Stacy, Philip and I are thrilled that you stayed on for the Total Saddle Fit tip of the week. And we actually have a listener question from Ruth, who is awesome. She came to our listener meetup and she sent me a Facebook message asking there were a lot of demonstrations on natural horsemanship, and Tristan Tucker was there and did some demonstrations, and Kip and Missy Flaglin were there, and you really watched those. And I wanted your perspective on sort of the natural horsemanship that they were doing and how can it help dressage horses? That was Ruth's question. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, very good. Actually, one of my Snapchats was a picture of, I just thought it was so amazing that on the ticket it had dressage, natural horsemanship. And I just love that, people are embracing the idea of just learning and not being afraid of certain words like, natural horsemanship or the different things, and just kind of embracing the idea that there's many ways to look at learning and training the horses. And when I was watching both, which, by the way, Tristan, didn't he come in as an alter name the night before? That was so funny.
He did. If anybody has a chance to watch Brett kidding on YouTube, it's pretty funny. It's worth watching. Yeah, do it. We were watching it in the hotel room and dying laughing. So
it was so good. And so then to have him, he did that demonstration and have him come in and do his hour-long talk was really, really great, because the points that were made across the board, the way that I would basically interpret them were that we have the opportunity when we're doing groundwork to teach the horses a lot of language that at least some of the language and all of the theory can be translated up onto their back. So we can teach these horses different things. And so the one that really stuck out was teaching the horse emotional control, is the way that I would phrase it. And some people would say desensitizing, or, getting the horse more balanced so it's not overreactive. At the same time, you don't want it underreactive, because you would like to be able to call up energy when you want it. And yet at the same time, I took some pictures of, he's using a flag, and flag, like literally the flag from his country, and he's waving it all around. And he put another rider on his horse, and he's having them ride it over a tarp and ride it through umbrellas, and he's whipping loudly around it. And the takeaway for me is that if you sit and watch a demonstration where somebody can have a horse standing quietly, his horse was ground tied, and he's whipping and making these loud noises and whipping flags around and doing all these odd things, and the horse is standing there quietly. When I look at that, what I look at is I see a horse that's looking at the rider and is looking past the scary things. So it's not about the whip or the flag or the umbrella or the tarp. It's the fact that the horse is looking at the rider and saying, I'm reading your body language, and right now there's all kinds of crazy energy, but I'm looking to you to tell me whether or not I should move or not. And that is the theory, that if you can teach the horse on the ground, that horse can carry it up onto their back. So then as the rider, when things get crazy and stuff starts blowing around and weird things are happening, if your horse will check back in with the rider and say, Rider, there's a bunch of crazy stuff happening here. What do you think we should do? Then you've got it. And I think that's the piece of natural horsemanship that can go across disciplines.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, tell us, what's a good way to start? When you say that, I don't know, where would I start with my horse? I don't even know where I would start.
I recommend firecrackers. Perfect for that reason.
I thought I'd just pull out a gun or something.
Yeah, that's good too. That'll work.
So, if you do any of these methods, I would love it if you'd start the video camera first.
Yes.
So, if you're going to pull out the firecracker or the gun, I recommend highly that you get somebody behind the video camera first, and then we can talk about that in the next episode.
I love it. Good idea.
From the hospital.
From the hospital. I love it.
But the way that I recommend it is when you're first trying to get the idea in your own brain, because really, if you don't own in your own mind how this is going to work, you are not going to successfully transfer it to your horse. So that's typically why we don't want you to start with like really big, crazy things, because you got to really own it in your own mind to be able to teach it to the horse. So an easier example would be if you're leading your horse around, and let's just say you're out hand walking the horse. So there's basically two ways that I break it down when we're talking about training. And a lot of things that we do in training are either rhythmic. So we use a lot of rhythm because the horses, when you do something with rhythm, they can see it, understand it, they get a chance to process it. So rhythm is one thing we talk about, and random is the opposite of that. And so, for example, if you're leading your horse around, and you're walking with a nice quiet rhythm. A lot of times the horse is relaxed, and you can appreciate that if you jump or startle, that a lot of times the horse is like, ah, what, what's going on? So there's a difference between rhythm and random. And so a lot of times when we're teaching the horse like a baseline of being, we use rhythm. So for example, I would walk along and I'd be out walking the horse, and maybe I'd just start, maybe I've got a 15-foot long, lead line rope on the horse, and I just start swinging the end of that rope, but I'm walking away from the horse, I'm leading the horse, and just me bringing that little bit of energy of swinging it in a rhythm, just swinging even just a foot of it, like if 1 foot in your left hand, you're leading the horse, and you're just kind of swinging it. Some horses, just swinging that is enough to make them back away from you a little bit more. They're like, I don't know what to do with that much energy. Mm-hmm. So you have to find some low level but rhythmic type of a thing that you can do. And you swing it just a little bit, and the horse goes, I'm not sure what to do, but he's still following you. And then you quit doing it. And they go, well, that was odd, but I made it and I'm okay. And you keep repeating that over and over again until the horse is like, my human is special. And you just have to get along with the fact that she twiddles things, and it's a little odd.
I like that perspective. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
And so, and if you can get that in your mind, so and then you slowly build. So my horses are to the point where I can be leading them along, and if I, pretend to trip, or if I jump or do something, mine are like, my person needs help. Like my person's really lost it. But it's a slow building process of, I use this rhythm of just, maybe it's just tapping your leg, clapping on your leg, but something low enough that you can repeat it, long enough that the horse can think about it, but not so big that the horse just goes, I got to leave. Because that's where, sorry, but the firecrackers and the guns, they tend to have more of a just leave. And so if we can start with something lower, and what I call it is we're teaching that horse a theory, the theory that, hey, she's going to be twiddling something and the energy level is going to get a little bit higher, but then it's going to go away. And I don't really need to do anything with it. And that's where I'd begin.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, Stacy, that totally makes sense, cross-discipline wise. It takes us 7 or more years to train a Grand Prix horse. It's not surprising that I can't just shoot off a gun on the back of my horse in one day. So
Dang it.
I don't know why that would be.
Get a video of that.
You can do everything once.
I was going to get a video. I was going to get a video of that.
That makes sense to me that you have to, train everything from a baseline and then build on it. That's how horses work. So
I'll tell you somebody who's really good at that, and I want to give her a shout out, and because this happened the week before you went to World Cup. We were at Road to the Horse, where they do train horses over a 3-day period of time. And Vicky Wilson came up from New Zealand, who's part of the Wilson sister gang. We've interviewed several of them before, and they're very, very popular in New Zealand. They're jumper riders. They have a very popular TV show down there, mainstream TV. And she just wowed the audience, and she really is the true horsewoman that and brought an English perspective. First time, only the second time a woman's ever won Road to the Horse, Stacy being the first, and then and then an English rider, first time an English rider's ever competed, let alone win. But she had the audience wrapped around her broken shoulder, her dislocated shoulder, which she did on day 1, and then continued to compete. But I just wanted to give Vicky Wilson a shout out because she deserved it after that.
Oh yeah, she did. It was an amazing performance, and if you didn't see it live, you got to see it on the replay when the DVD comes out, or however it gets released. It was really an event to watch.
It really was. And it is amazing. Yeah, I recommend anybody, and Reese, I know we got to get you there one of these days. I recommend anybody that is into training horses, you have to see this event because it is truly incredible what these horses will do for people in a short period of time. Even a non-horse person like me watches this, a non-trainer like me. I can't say I'm a non-horse person.
You're in it now.
Even a non-trainer like me can watch that over 3 days, and you see the personalities come out, and you see the training styles, and it's just fascinating to watch. It really is. It's taken the other end of what you guys watched, right? It's taken it from the beginning.
Yeah, and but it was, it was nice that they did that in Omaha. And Tristan Chucker, if you have a chance, also, I mean, Stacy, you watched him and seemed to like a lot of the things that he was doing. He's a really interesting guy and fun to watch.
He's hilarious, yeah.
And he's hilarious.
Yeah, cool.
But his training, I mean, he's doing the thing. But the Brett Kidding thing is funny. But no, I think it was really cool. It's cool that they, brought it in and did those demos because it brought a different perspective to the World Cup. So we really, really liked it. Well, Stacy, again, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your experience and your knowledge on natural horsemanship and, bringing in the Western disciplines. It's pretty awesome to get that perspective as well. And how would our listeners find you online if they have any more questions?
Either on westfallhorsemanship.com or you can find me on Facebook, Stacy Westfall.
This tip was brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the shoulder relief girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The shoulder relief girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your shoulder relief girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, Phil, as always, we love our emails and Facebook shout-outs. And thanks for Ruth for coming to our listener meetup, but also having a great question that Stacy was able to answer. Well, everybody, you can find our show notes and links to today's guest on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
The best way to find me is on Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a good show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.